Matt, it's so great to be here with you today. I'm excited to learn more about your latest company, Greener Process Systems. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Abby, I'm thrilled to be here with you too. We have such an exciting project. But okay, a little bit about myself. So I am a born and bred Jersey guy, grew up, raised five kids on my own as a single dad, wrote a best-selling book about it. The posters on the wall there behind me, and how a single dad of five raised his kids to success while he had businesses that required transformations. I actually grew a business from $1 million to $100 million. I exited that business, wrote that book, went out, helped a few companies along the way sort of get over the finish line. And I kind of said to myself that I was in that company that I exited for, I don't know, 20 years, 25 years plus. And so I said to myself, I'm not taking on another project unless it's a big deal, unless it's really going to do something good. I know that sounds a little meme-ish, but it's actually true. And when Greener Process Systems came along, I actually couldn't resist. It's a chance to make the earth a cleaner and greener place. So how to take it.
Okay, so you've really had a lifetime of entrepreneurship that finally is culminating in this business that you're running now.
Yeah, I would say other than finally, I don't like the sound of finally, but let's say culminating in when you get a little bit older, that word final gets a little bit scary for you. But no, this project we're going to take this project and we're going to ride off into the sunset on this one because it's such a big project. It's such a big thing we're doing.
So, and this is all about air pollution reduction at ports. Tell us, why is that important?
Well, air pollution at ports is one of the major contributors to air pollution in the world. In fact, 70% of the pollution in port cities comes from the exhaust of freighters and cruise ships and ferries and all of those ocean-going ships. And it's a catastrophic worldwide health and environmental problem. And nobody, until we've come along, has had a solution to this problem.
Well, it's no surprise to me to hear that air pollution causes significant health impacts. What makes Seth stand out? How does it work?
So our system, if I say it really fast, we attach to the smokestacks of the ships, of ocean-going ships. Like I said, think freighters, cruise ships, and ferries, and other kinds of ocean-going ships. We filter the air into a dry powder. And our system, the Seth system, we call it, is 98% effective at removing those harmful pollutants like SOx, NOx, heavy metals, diesel particulate, the stuff that really causes health and environmental damage.
98%, that's amazing. That's almost all of it. Can you tell us a little bit about the technology? I don't know what you can share.
So our technology, to get a little more detail, the complication in our technology revolves around being able to create a seal on a ship's smokestack. And a ship, even when it's in port, is in motion. And so to actually create that seal, to capture the exhaust, to maintain the temperature of the exhaust, to have it so that the system is automated. We use artificial intelligence and robotics in order to actually make this work. It goes through a filtration system and then creates a relatively small amount of dry powder. I know it sounds simple, but it actually took us about 15 years to develop the system. And we have many patents, several patents pending. So we're really excited about our technology and our intellectual property.
Wow, so you have patents pending, you have existing patents, and you also are making your first installation, is that right?
That's right. In Europe, we actually have a $10 million order to install 3 of our systems in 3 different ports in Europe. It's actually funded through something called the Green Ports Initiative, because the port problem is becoming more and more aware. Obviously, many governments know about this problem, and the European Union set aside hundreds of millions of euros for this project, and some of it was allocated to clean up port air pollution, and we were lucky enough to be able to install our systems. Very excited about doing this.
Oh, wow. So it really sounds like a big market opportunity.
Yeah, the market opportunity, our estimation, if you look at the number of ports, the thousands of ports that exist worldwide and the even more dock locations, we see the market as somewhere between 20 to $30 billion. We had to peg a number, we'd say it's about $27 billion.
That's substantial. Um, and you guys are one of the pilot companies starting off this new initiative. Is that right?
That's right. So nobody else has technology like we have. And to be honest, nobody has really tried to solve this problem because
Hmm.
while the problem is a known problem, it's causing major, major health problems. You know how the world works is that until there is a requirement to do it, corporations and government entities can talk the talk, but they ultimately don't walk the walk until there's a requirement. And the good news for greener process systems is that environmental regulations are going into effect all over the world that will require the ports to reduce emissions over the next 3 to 10 years. And we're going to be the first to market really with a system that actually is effective at reducing port pollution, port air pollution, and as we mentioned before, at a 98% effective rate.
So the moment really is now to be the market leader in pollution reduction category that is being regulated by the governments right now.
Right. So government regulation is obviously the best thing that can happen to a company like ours. But I will tell you that there's positives and negatives. So sometimes when you want to come to market, you want to just have a better product in an existing market because the market has been created. Everybody else did the hard work. So in our case, we have the best product. We have a really high functioning product that goes in at a relatively low cost, but we also have to do a little bit of the market establishment. And that's why we're out there fundraising. We need to go out there. We need to talk to the ports. We obviously continue to advance our technology, but the advantage of being the first to market is that when you win, and we will win, the rewards are huge.
I see it as a huge benefit, right? I love the public health outcome. It seems like such a straightforward thing, and then it's great that you have a technology that works, right?
Yeah,
So what are some? Oh, go ahead.
it has to happen because the health cost is enormous. If you just look at the health cost from asthma to cancer to all of those things that air pollution causes, particularly the kind that comes out of diesel engines in ocean-going ships, the cost of installing a SET system is a minuscule cost in terms of the savings, in terms of lost work hours, in terms of actually health costs, in terms of early mortality, and so on. So we believe that this is something that once the word gets out there, every port in the world is going to want to have a system like ours installed.
I want that here where I live, right? That would. How soon can we get it? So before we move on to sort of some common questions, I was hoping that you'd tell us a little bit about your team, because obviously you have a really strong background in entrepreneurship and ability to scale companies. Who else is on your team?
Yeah, so we're a bunch of geeks, I guess I would call us. Our team is very heavy in engineers. I personally, my degrees are in mathematics and computer science, which obviously isn't necessarily related to that, but I've spent my career in business. Our founder and the original inventor of the technology, Enrico Festa, has advanced degrees in engineering and in chemical engineering. And our chief operating officer, Mauricio Festa, he has dual master's degrees from the University of Italy in Bologna. So our executive team is very, very heavy in tech. And, I like to say that I add a little bit of the business flair to it. And in the countries where we are installing our systems, we have teams of engineers, and we're building our team of engineers here. So we will be primarily an engineering and an engineering technology company as we go forward. So like I said, we're a bunch of geeks.
Perfect. I mean, that's exactly who you want to be doing the engineering, right?
Environmental engineering should be done by people who are engineers. Exactly.
So some common misconceptions that people genuinely have about when they first learn about your technology is, does Seth slow down or inhibit port operations? How does it work, really?
Yeah. So one of the things that you always get, and I'm going to have sort of one of these honest moments. Our company is named Greener Process Systems, and there's a little bit of my marketing because I'm really people who know me know that I am a marketer at heart, and so I'm sitting there, and it sounds like a great name, right? It's exactly what we do. But when people hear green, they immediately think this is fake technology, and it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to hurt the economy. But nothing further could be the truth from our technology. In some ways, our technology is a transitional technology. at some point in the future, maybe my great grandchildren's future, will have a fusion hydrogen engine powering freighters. But for the foreseeable future, freighters need to use diesel fuel, and that's what allows the goods and services in the entire world to operate. And our technology actually allows the freighters to continue to use diesel fuel. We do not slow the port operations down. The build and the operation of our systems actually add local jobs. So not only do we clean the environment, we're actually a bonus to the economy. So our technology, as I like to say when I get in front of these videos, is a win-win-win.
A win-win-win. Absolutely. A win for public health, actually creates jobs and allows business to continue as usual, essentially,
That's correct. That's correct.
while at the same time having positive health outcomes. I mean, that makes so much sense. Who pays for the cost of operating?
Well, in the case of the systems that we're installing in Europe, the funding for the initial build is funded by the European Union. But we see actually a business model in this. And there's a little known thing about freighters. If you're in the freight industry, you know, but freighters actually have to burn very, very expensive fuel. It's low sulfur fuel when they come into port. Essentially, every city in the world requires that because when they're out at sea, they burn oil or they burn diesel fuel that emits more pollution. And when they come into port, that fuel is way more expensive. But the good part about using a SET system is that they can continue to burn the less expensive fuel. We still get the 98% emissions reduction out of the system. And so we believe there's a business model where the ports, maybe with local subsidy of some kind, can actually charge the freighters, and the freighters will see a huge savings in fuel cost when they're in ports. Because freighters and cruise ships, when they come into port, they don't turn their engines off. They run their auxiliary engines. That's where the smoke comes from. And the cost of the fuel when they're in port is very high. So we believe there's an operational model there. And then, of course, if you look from the local and state governments and whatever municipalities, there's a huge health cost that they're actually paying right now. So from our perspective, the business model is also driven by an education model or an understanding model to understand that they're already paying huge amounts of money for the cost of port pollution.
Well, that's interesting. So you're seeing it from both sides, right? So probably a lot of these initial installations will come from the Port Authority or government, but also you're seeing that the operators themselves will be realizing substantial cost savings just by attaching themselves when they're parked.
That's correct. And once again, the relative cost of a SET system, it depends obviously on the configuration and so on, is small in comparison to these other costs.
Well, I mean, let's get started. How soon can we get them here? That's my question. But so it sounds like you guys, there are lots of great reasons why you're positioned for success, right? You've got your patents, you've got patents pending, you have a $10 million contract where you're already installing your system in ports in the EU. And it's a really huge market opportunity at the right time because all of this regulatory requirements are headed down to improve air quality, right? So those are really great points for me to be noticing about your opportunity right now on Start Engine. So can you tell us a little bit about your current equity crowdfunding campaign?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, as you mentioned, we are out on Start Engine, happily fundraising under a SEC regulation CF. We've had a pretty good start to the fundraise campaign. And one of the views that I always take of a fundraising campaign as CEO, it's also an opportunity to get the word out there. It's an opportunity, obviously, to bring in small, medium, and large investors and have them be part of the air pollution solution. But it's also an opportunity, as we've talked about previously, to really get the word out about the port pollution problem to the general public who don't live in port cities, may not know about the problem, and to get the word out there to investors. So we welcome investors. Go to startengine.com, Greener Process Systems, and come on, let's come on board and let's fix this problem once and for all.
Well, I'm on board. I'm so excited about your technology and your company, and I'm really thrilled to see you guys grow in the future. So thank you so much, Matt, for being here with me today. Are there any closing remarks you want to leave people with?
Yeah, thank you, Abby, first of all, for the interview. I really appreciate the opportunity to get the word out there. And just to emphasize, I have 3 little granddaughters. And one of the reasons why I took on this project was, and this is going to sound cliche, but it's true. I want them to be in a cleaner, healthier world. And that really weighs on your mind when you're looking at them and you think about the future. When you get to my point in my life, I've had a lot of business success. But you get to a point in your life where you really want to think about leaving this earth in a better way than when you entered it. And I think that our technology at Greener Process Systems is a way that we can actually make the earth a cleaner and greener place, not just for us, but for future generations.
I love to hear you talking that way. It's really heartwarming, and I completely agree. So it makes me really feel happy to find a practical solution that's ready now, and the time is right. So thank you so much, Matt. It was really exciting to hear about your new company, and I wish you all the success on Start Engine.
Thank you, Abby.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.